This episode is brought to you by LaFosse Academy, a program dedicated to helping people from diverse backgrounds break into the tech industry. They don't just train you with the skills you need, they help you to land your first role, give you real-world experience and a strong foundation to launch your career in tech. For businesses, the Academy offers a way to build diverse, future-ready teams while creating opportunities for talented individuals who might not have had a traditional route into tech. So, whether you're looking to start a career in tech or you're a business leader ready to build a stronger, more diverse team, speak to LaFosse Academy and take the next step. At Elevate Colour, we're proud to share their mission to level the playing field and create a tech workforce that truly reflects society. Hi everyone, welcome back to Race to the Top with me, Oki Alazu. On this podcast, I'm going to be talking to the amazing leaders about their journeys to the top to show that leaders come in all colours. My guest today is Janine Irons. Janine is the Chief Executive and co-founder of Tomorrow's Warriors, a pioneering talent development agency. She's a musical educator and a creative producer specialising in jazz and co-founded by Janine with Gary Crosby OBE in 1991. Tomorrow's Warriors develops, champions and provides a platform for a community of artists, audiences and music leaders, with a particular focus on black and female musicians and those who face financial and other barriers to pursuing or developing successful, sustainable careers in music. She's an experienced creative producer who also founded and ran jazz record label June Records, achieving 2 Mercury Prize nominations, alongside acting as a manager for a number of UK jazz artists. Janine was nominated for the European Federation of Black Women Owners Award in 1999 and was awarded an MBE for services to music industry in the Queen's Birthday Honours list in 2006. And basically, I'm a bit of a fanboy for this, so this is great. So it's great having you. Welcome, Janine.
Thank you. Yeah. I think we need an updated bio.
You can tell me whatever you need to tell me about what you've been up to. We'll cover, right? Because you're just so busy, right?
Yeah. We do a lot.
Yeah.
I think things have moved on quite a bit since those days. But yeah.
Fill in the gaps.
All right. So, there have been a few more awards since then, and I'm now an OBE, not an MBE.
Oh, of course. Congratulations.
So, thank you. But yeah, we've been busy, you know, and I think
damehood on the way, I suspect.
I doubt that. Well. I think Gary thinks I behave like a dame at home.
I think well, watch this space, everyone. Watch this space.
Yeah.
But yeah, so much going on, so much you do. We'll cover all of that as we go through. But what we like to do to start with you and your background and how you came to be you, which is an important part of what people want to learn. So tell me a little bit about your parents. Where were they from? Because I think you were born here in England, but where were your parents from?
So my dad was from, he was actually born in Panama, but brought up in Jamaica.
Oh, right, okay.
Near Montego Bay.
Okay, nice.
My mother was French, from Marseille in the south of France,
wow.
Beautiful part of France. Her family were Algerian Pied Noir.
All right.
So the French who got
Pied Noir, I'm not sure. I'm not.
Yeah, the Blackfoot.
Oh.
So they got thrown out of France in the days when France thought that Algeria was part of France and should be part of France.
Right.
But my mother, thankfully, was the first one of her family born in mainland France.
Oh wow. Okay, that's cool. Yeah. So how did they end up, both of them, being in London, Harrow, which is where you were born, right?
Yes, yeah. So they both came over during the Second World War.
Oh, wow.
My dad was in the RAF. He was a car mechanic in the RAF. My mother actually married an English army man who brought her back to England.
Right.
but by all accounts, he was a bit of a brute. And so they separated.
Right.
And my mother was working in the NAFI, and that's where my dad met her. And he used to say that he heard there was a lovely French girl
All right.
on the base, and he just went for it.
Good
So,
and good thing he did, right?
good thing he
Good
did.
thing for you.
She was
he
very
did.
lovely, I have to say. She was a very, very attractive woman. So I'm not surprised that, he fell for her.
That he was attracted that way.
Yeah.
And then, so that was during the war, and you were born in. So after that, they moved to Harrow. Is that?
Yes, I think they lived in Stanmore for a bit because he was on the base in Stanmore. I think was it Bomber Command or Fighter Command? I can't remember which base was there. But they ended up in Harrow. They were going to they were in Hampstead for a while.
Right.
And my dad apparently wanted to buy a garage in Hampstead. He wanted to stay in Hampstead, but my mother, bless her heart, wanted her suburban house with a garden, all of that. So
it's funny to think of Harrow as suburban.
Yes, yeah. But back then it was, so they moved out to Harrow. And that's where we ended up.
So you ended up, and that's where you were born.
Yeah.
You said in
my bedroom.
In your bedroom.
Yeah.
Wow. That early days for home births.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think a lot of births might have been at home around that time.
Well, maybe.
It's only sort of in more recent years that they've been putting women into hospitals. So treating it like a disease, really.
Yeah, in and out very quickly as well. But we won't go into that part of it. So, what was it like growing up in London? In those days, as a person of colour, what was it like? What was your childhood like?
It wasn't great,
right?
It really wasn't great. I mean, every day we'd be getting called all kinds of names.
Yeah.
The N-word, coon, chocolate, whatever, you name it, we were called it. And
so much so that it almost just becomes just nothing. Or were they like little, just constantly wear you down?
Well, to a degree, but I think we were quite resilient.
Yeah.
We could give as good as we got, I think. And I think what surprises me now is that if I hear those words, if somebody calls me something like that, it's so shocking, that in this day and age, and a few years ago I was in Newcastle, and coming back from a gig to the hotel, some guys said, go back to your own country, and I'm like, I looked around and thought, it's like, you talking to me?
Yeah. Who are you talking to? Is there someone else here?
So, it was shocking. And also, I think, it was poor. We were poor. We weren't a wealthy family. And, I had 2 sisters and a brother. Yeah. And, we had to somehow make ends meet.
Yeah.
So, my mum and dad, they worked really hard.
Yeah.
So, it was tough. But they were aspiring. They were aspiring parents. They really wanted the best for us.
Yeah.
And so education was really important. We all went to grammar schools. We all did music and dance. Except for my brother, he didn't really appreciate my sisters putting him in a tutu.
I wonder why that would be the case. Back then, today, totally fine.
Today, anything goes. But no, so I think they appreciated the value of art and the arts.
Yeah,
to enrich our lives and to stretch us and to help us do better, I think, academically. So
where did they get that? Were they artistic people themselves, and then that they transferred that to you, or did they just have some feeling that this would be a good route that would enable you for the future?
I think it was a bit of both. So on my mother's side, I think her father or grandfather played clarinet, I think, in the local orchestra.
Right.
So there was something on that side. I don't think my father was artistic. He was more the mechanical type, engineering, and although still creative. I mean, he liked building things,
Right.
So he built sheds. He did everything himself.
Right.
He was a major recycler,
Which is good back then.
Yeah, back then. So half of the house is built from bricks, actually fire bricks from the old Kodak chimneys. So when they knocked some of them down.
Right.
So, if my house ever catches fire, one half of it is going to be still there.
Oh, right, yeah.
But he couldn't bear to throw things away. And I think I've inherited a bit of that, to be honest. But if he could use something again, he would, mainly because we didn't have the money to keep buying stuff. So, in his shed, he had these big jars of, all kinds of screws and washers and nails. Nothing got thrown away.
Yeah.
So, he did everything himself.
Oh, wow.
So very creative in that respect. I think.
But not
artistically
creative.
No. My mother used to paint as well. She could paint.
Okay.
But I think that the getting us all to do music, apart from it being a great thing to do and enriching for us, it was about getting us into good schools.
Yeah.
Helping us with our academic work, and that worked.
And do you think they did that because they felt that in as a minority in this country, that education was going to be incredibly important to you progressing, specifically because of your colour?
Absolutely. Big, and I still remember when I was coming up to doing my 11 plus at primary school, you got your choices, form to fill out as to which schools you wanted to go to, and my mother just put the grammar school, and that was it. And so I got sent home with that form. Like,
Right.
no, you've got to put, what if you fail?
Yeah.
Sort of thing, and it's like she sent me back with the same form. It's like she's not failing.
Yeah, yeah.
So because she knew what what I was capable of, and it's like, well, there's absolutely no chance. I'd been in the top stream at primary school. It was a done deal. So, but my mum, bless her, she was always in argument with the school because she knew what we were capable of, and she wasn't going to have anybody telling her otherwise, and the expectation of us at school was never much.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
So she had to keep pushing, and so she was always fighting our corner.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. My parents were very similar. I did a similar thing when I was going to secondary school. One of the big schools they put in. My dad said, "Where do you want to go?" And I said, "There." He's going, "Okay, that's where you'll go." And we went back to the headmaster and said, "Well, he'll never get in there." He's like, "Yes, he will."
Yeah.
Right. That's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And as much as they tried to put him off, and that was really great for my feeling of self-worth and self-confidence. Did it have that same sort of impact on you?
I think so, because I think, a lot of the people in, where I lived, they went to the school, to the comprehensive school down the road.
Exactly, yeah.
We weren't going to the comprehensive school down the road, period.
Yeah.
So all of us went to the local grammar school. And, I do remember my dad saying something like, you aren't where you live,
Yes.
So even though we could only afford to be in that area, we didn't have to be of the area.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're very aspiring, very they wanted us to aim high.
Yeah. And that's super important, isn't it? Because one of the things that I've found is this sort of whole idea of limiting beliefs.
Yes.
But actually, if your parents instill with you, you can be anything you want to, and you can buck the trend, or you don't have to be from that area.
Yeah.
Actually, without you knowing it, it gives you I can do this, I can do that, I can do the other, because you have that real belief.
Yeah.
And I think one of the questions for us generally in society is how can we give ethnic diverse or low socio-demographic people that sense of belief.
Mm.
I mean, maybe you see that with some of the kids you work with.
I do, and I recognise it in a lot of them, because we were always being told, oh, you can't, you won't, and it's like, but we will, and then you're seen as uppity if you actually believe that you can
Yeah,
and you will.
yeah. Ideas above your station.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
So-
you've got to have some resilience and confidence when you think you can, your parents think you can, but other people are almost telling you can't.
Yeah.
You've got to think, well, hang on, I've got to believe in myself, and that's the core of, for me, that's the core of success.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I look back when I went to primary school, because I actually went to prep school, so I was reading and writing before I went to primary school.
Yeah,
and then when I went to primary school, because my mother was French, she used to speak to us in French, so all of us were, quite fluent
yeah,
in childish French at least. By the time we went to school,
yeah.
and then,
Wow.
so the teachers there were saying, she had to stop speaking to us in French because we could speak French, nobody else could. When we started school, the kids there were barely reading the alphabet.
Yeah,
We were reading books.
yeah, yeah.
So it was all those things to try and
Push you down.
Push you down.
Yeah. Ideas above your station.
Yeah.
Well, how dare you be a bilingual
Yeah.
person of colour
Yeah.
who's reading books? That's
at 5.
at 5. That's we don't compute that. That's not a good thing. And did you like school? Is school a happy memories for you? Both. Well, let's move on to secondary. Is it good?
Yeah. Well, I just think my entire school life was, it was fraught.
This sounds like a good place to go for a podcast.
Yes,
Fraught. Tell me about your fraught.
I was always in trouble.
Yeah.
Right. I could not keep myself out of trouble, and even though I look back on it now, and I think, what on earth, what on earth did I do that made them think I was so bad? So I was naughty, and it's mainly because I liked, I questioned everything.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, but why?
Yeah, yeah.
And obviously you don't like children who just keep asking questions.
Yeah.
But I liked playing up a bit. I could be the class clown.
Yeah, yeah.
I was quite cheeky, but I was smart cheeky.
Yeah. Lovable rogue.
Yeah. And a lot of my contemporaries, when I've met up with them, since, they said, you were a great laugh.
Yeah.
We really enjoyed having you in the class. The teachers didn't like it, but everyone else did. But I didn't have a good time, and especially at my first grammar school. I mean, basically, I've been thrown out of every school I've ever been to, right? Apart from one. And
how many is that?
Huh?
How many schools is that?
Oh gosh, I didn't get thrown out of primary because it was just before the 11 plus, and my mother was absolutely not having it.
Yeah.
So my first grammar school, 3 suspensions, then out. My second grammar school, 3 suspensions, but then I was doing my O levels, so they didn't throw me out. Sixth form college, I got thrown out.
No one gets thrown out of sixth form college.
Yeah.
You're really going some there.
Yeah, sixth form college. Then the uni. Yeah. So I went to a dance conservatoire, Larbeth.
Yeah.
And I got politely asked to leave after the first year because I'd fallen out with the principal.
Oh my good God.
So
what's the thread that runs through, I mean, if you don't mind, what's the thread that runs through that? Because you're a lovely person. I'm sure you're not doing anything that's bad. What's the thread that runs through that? Disestablishmentarian or what?
Possibly. I don't really know, to be honest. I mean, at school, I was talking a lot. So, I got thrown out for talking in the library.
Yeah.
The girl I was talking to, a white girl, didn't get suspended.
Yeah.
I didn't get asked to leave. At my second grammar school, it was, I did get caught out forging a letter to get me out of school.
Yeah.
But fair
creativity.
Dues, creativity. But to be honest, my English teacher, bless her, she was gorgeous. she saw something in me,
Mm.
so that when I did get suspended, she said, all right, when she's finished school, come round, we'll go through all the work, so I didn't fall behind,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But she saw something in me. And even actually the head teacher at that school, at the second grammar school, you could see the pain when she was saying, I have to suspend you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, in some ways, you know, they were trying to support me, and I was making it really hard for them. But I think I didn't do anything really bad.
Yeah.
And I think when I was at the first grammar school, it was a Catholic grammar school,
Mm.
and anything I did, I couldn't breathe without somebody getting on my case.
Yeah.
And my poor dad, he was up the school virtually every day, you know.
Yeah.
And they would call him rather than my mother, because my mother probably would have wiped the floor with
Yeah, they
me.
don't want to deal with
No,
it, no.
no. And it's interesting because, you know, my mother was white,
Yeah.
right? My dad was black, but he was more, you know, amenable and malleable,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And so whatever they said, it's like, yeah, she's terrible, you know, punishment when I get home. But there was one day where it was like the Spanish Inquisition. We had all the nuns and the, you know, the head mistress, and they were talking about me. I was 12. They were talking about me like I'd committed murder.
Right.
And my dad, I couldn't believe it. I was so shocked. For once, he actually pushed back.
Right.
And he said, she's 12 years old. What could she possibly have done for you to be speaking so ill of her?
Yeah.
You know? And they were like, oh gosh, Mr. Irons. But I think it was at that stage when they said, do you know what? It's not working.
Yeah.
And so then I moved to a non-Catholic school to a secular school.
But for me, it's really interesting because clearly we know, you know, we can join the dots, go back and see how successful you've been. And I'm wondering what traits you had that may not have worked in the formal sort of education system. Like we all say, everyone says education stunts creativity and energy and some of that, because like people do well at just formally learning stuff. And if you're creative, and you might be seen as a troublemaker or whatever, but actually all you've got is these amazing traits that could clearly go on and make you successful. Like clearly happened to you. So what traits do you think you have now that have been so useful to you in becoming the huge success that you have been, that didn't work in a school setting?
Creativity.
Right.
You know, I was artistic. I was, you know, I played piano, I danced, and there wasn't really an outlet for me in that first school. In the second grammar school I went to, where, say, my English teacher was my champion, they could see I was artistic.
Yeah.
And so they found outlets for me. So at lunchtime, they would let me get my friends into the gymnasium, and I could teach them dance.
Wow.
Dance
Yeah.
routines. Or I could go into the assembly hall where there was a lovely piano, and I could teach somebody to play the piano. So it was about channeling,
Yeah.
you know, all of that artistic energy. And I think in those environments, in class where, you know, I was getting things quickly.
Yeah.
So I'd get bored really quickly.
Yes.
You know, and then I'd start, you know, just being a bit disruptive, I suppose, because it's like, yeah, got that. Can we move on, sort of thing. But yeah, it was. I think that creative streak, and I wasn't in a place where that was being really nurtured.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things here. I've just sort of said it. These things are hugely valued as an adult, right? But not valued necessarily as a kid. And you need the right place to channel sort of creativity, being artistic, energy. I've written down innovation. You know, this is an intelligence. Is because you get bored quickly, so you've got to be stimulated. You know, and if you're not stimulated, you know, and that sort of resonates with me. But it shows you also resilient because you managed to get through the education system.
I did just about.
Yeah.
But
But a lot of people don't.
yeah,
A lot of people in
yeah,
those situations don't get all the way through.
yeah. I think another trait, because I was never a bad person,
No.
right? And I was always the one who, I used to do voluntary nursing. I used to, up at our local hospital
Yeah, yeah.
every weekend, I'd go and volunteer. And at school, I'd be the one organising a concert for the local old people's home or going out raising money for,
Yeah.
for charities. So there was a really good side of me. And I just felt that, none of that counted
Yes.
so no matter what I did,
Yeah.
none of this good stuff that I did ever counted for much. And, I think what a waste, really, what a waste.
And what's sad is I suspect that a young you now is going through exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
I just don't think the education, this isn't all about education, but I don't think the education system has probably changed enough to cope with people like you.
Yeah.
Whether it
Yeah.
was 30 or 40 years ago or whether it's today, I think that problem probably still exists.
Yeah.
For those sort of people.
Mhm.
Before we move off this, I always ask people, what looking back, what are you thankful that your parents taught you or told you that still holds with you today? Or maybe you even thought, oh, I don't know, but now you look back as a grown up and think, oh, thank God they were so right about that.
Mm. It's a couple of things. So with my mother, she always said, people don't see the white. They don't see the white in
Yeah,
me, right? So, I need to be prepared for that.
Yeah.
And just recognize it, and know that people will be prejudiced, that, and in many ways that we would be disadvantaged by it.
Mm.
But she taught us to be really resilient and, not to take no all the time,
Yeah.
And then my dad, I think he was not, aim high and do things to your absolute best ability. Try and get things right. I mean, in some respects, I regret it because it's made me a bit of a perfectionist.
Yeah.
And perfectionists never get anything done.
Well, no,
But they really wanted the best for me, and there was always that thing about you got to work 3 times as hard as anyone else.
They said that to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to come first to come third is what my dad used to say.
Oh.
So and it's like no matter how good you are, you're still going to be held back or held down. But you just got to keep going.
I know. And it's a shame that we're still, part of why I do this is we're still saying that.
We
to
are
kids.
still saying that. We are.
Yeah.
But, slowly.
Yeah, no, we can do that. So, moving on a little bit, work. So, interesting school time.
Mm-hmm.
Probably couldn't wait to get out of that.
The funny is, I love learning.
Yeah.
I absolutely love learning.
Yeah.
But
They're two different things, though.
For me. Yeah, they are.
Two different things.
And it's like, I was always good at learning. I was smart. I could, all my coursework and everything, I'd get really good marks. Put me in an exam situation, I went to pieces.
Yeah.
My mind would go blank. It was terrible. And I'd get so anxious,
Yeah.
in those situations. So I think in terms of, qualification things, I didn't do that great. I think I've got five O levels and an A level. But, if I didn't have to be in an exam situation, I would have got straight A's.
Yeah, you thrive. And again, there are so many young people, kids for whom that is completely and utterly true. Yet the system doesn't treat you doesn't treat you like that. So you go out into the big wide world.
Mm-hmm.
What was your first proper job or part of your career, and how did you get it, and how did it work out? Because you've had this sort of up and down sort of relationship with education. How did it transpire into the working environment?
Oh gosh. Well, the thing is, I've worked since I was 11. All right. So when you say, my proper job and everything, it's like I've worked, my first job was as a paper round. We had to earn our own money. But I suppose proper job as in, office or whatever. That was at um, Boozy and Hawkes, the music publishers.
Okay.
So
How'd you end up there?
well, after I got asked to leave the conservatoire, my dad said to me, go and learn how to type. You'll never be without a job. Because in those days, you had things like shorthand typists.
Yeah.
So I went and did a diploma for personal assistance,
Okay.
which actually was a really good thing for me to do. And then I applied for this job, and I thought, oh, it's music. I like music.
Yeah.
So I was working with the director of new music at Boozy and Hawkes, and that's promoting new works by the composers they had. And because of my dance background, they then let me promote to choreographers.
Yeah.
So that was, I suppose, for me, my first idea that I could be promoting stuff.
Yeah.
Although I'd never actually thought about doing something like that.
But your brain, by the way, is wired. Just moves on to this could be this.
Yeah,
right?
it could be this. Yeah. So the problem was it paid really badly. There were still people there getting what would have been like welfare,
Below minimum wage.
Below minimum wage. They didn't have a minimum wage.
No such thing.
But they'd be getting, free this, free that, after they've been working there for like 20 years. And it's like, that's insane. So my sister was working in the city as a secretary. And she told me how much she was earning. It's like, I'm coming.
How much?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I went to the city and I started working in an Austrian bank on the trading division side. I wasn't a trader. I was the secretary to a team of people. And then I moved over to the administrative side, which for me was far more interesting and a great grounding for me in administration. Because I was working for the manager of operations and the chief accountant.
Okay.
So, I learnt lots there about, how to put in big systems, telephones, computers, all of that, as well as general administration. But there was a point where I had to decide which boss I wanted to work for, and the general operations gave me more scope.
Yep.
So I went there, and I worked my socks off. I really did. I worked my socks off. I was working all the hours that God gives.
Yep.
To get stuff done and move things forward. And I just never got promoted. I saw all these young women coming in after me who were all getting promoted to senior this, senior that. And I kept thinking, well, when's mine coming?
Yeah.
And in the end, I said, like wagwan.
Yeah.
So, and my boss said to me he wouldn't promote me because he was scared I might exceed my authority. Not that I had exceeded my authority. I'd never done that.
Yeah.
He was scared that I might.
What, on the basis of what?
You tell me.
Right.
So I wonder how he felt actually working with me, because to be fair, I felt smarter than him.
Yeah. And you probably were.
I was smarter than him.
Right.
And, I'm a stickler for things like, grammar and spelling and all of that.
Yeah.
And he just wasn't hot on that sort of stuff. So I was always, my red pen was...
Yeah, constant.
So, and I don't think he appreciated it.
Yeah.
And he would compare me to his previous secretary and said, oh, so-and-so, she used to get all the filing done in, at the end of the day. And it's like, so-and-so just had one file.
Yeah.
Of course you can get everything done, So I put systems in place,
Were you the only person of colour? Because back in the city back then...
There were two of it, me and my sister.
Oh, right, okay. Of course your sister was there.
And that was interesting because we ended up... She worked for my boss's boss.
Right.
And we ended up sitting next to each other. So there was a bit of tension
there.
there.
Right, okay. Interesting.
And we'd be saying to our bosses, no, you tell her. I'm not speaking to her. But no, that was fun sometimes.
Yeah.
But no, it was, I just couldn't get beyond a certain level. So I
Yeah.
left. In the end, I left. And
So
I
you
went
hit some sort of effectively ceiling.
the ceiling,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And then I went to a Hungarian bank, working for the trading division, which broke away and became a separate company. I was working for the managing director there. And then I became I took over all the systems and the office moves and refurbishments. Again, getting promotion, it wasn't happening. So in the end,
Again, were you the only person of colour? Was
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
For right up until about a year before I left, and then there was a Sri Lankan girl who joined. But again, everyone's getting promoted except me, and
did you conclude it was because of the
it
colour of your skin?
absolutely was because of that. And then what happened was, I got promoted. And at that point, becoming a manager, I should have got a company car and loads of other perks.
Yeah.
But instead, they promoted me, gave me some business cards, and then moved everyone else up and said, no, you have to be an assistant director to have a company car. So it's like, okay, I get it,
Yeah.
So thankfully, I met Gary, while all this was going on. And he just inspired me to do what you really love to do. And at that point, I'd started doing photography at evening classes. I needed something creative
To do. Because I see this incredibly creative person stuck in the city.
Yeah.
Right? In you can join the dots going backwards. You're like, that's never going to work.
Yeah.
Right. And clearly it allowed you to pivot out to do something else.
Yeah. Yeah. But after a few months going out with Gary to, being out late at night, jam sessions. There was one day I actually fell asleep at my desk. I really did. I was like...
Was that Jazz Warriors time?
No, it was after that.
All right,
It was after that. So he just started doing actually, he hadn't just started. He'd been doing his jam session at the Jazz Cafe for a couple of years. And so I was having a lot of late nights.
Yeah. That doesn't work well with the city either.
No, it doesn't. And I'm trying to do my day job.
Yeah.
And I was in this round of, I need a pay rise. Everyone else got a pay rise. And they're saying, no, nobody's got a pay rise. Like, I'm looking at the accounts here.
Yeah.
I installed this account system.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I can see, So I just gave them the ultimatum. It's like, you're either going to give me a pay rise or I'm going. And they came up with more excuses, like, all right, I'll see you, And I left. And I did what Gary said, do what I love. And that was initially to do photography.
Yeah.
But I very quickly realised that jazz musicians, A, don't like paying for their photographs of themselves.
I can imagine.
And B, they don't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, that idea went out the window quite quickly. But I ended up working with Gary and, helping him with his band and sorting out his admin and everything.
So you got into music by just doing the admin for Gary and the band?
Well, doing photographs, taking photographs, helping sort out. Gary's, trying to help him really sort out all the admin while he was touring, and but he had ideas. What he wanted to do in getting me to the Jazz Cafe, I think, was to show me, what he was doing. And me, with that sort of puzzle brain, which I have, I like solving
puzzles
things.
And curiosity.
Yes.
Which we can see coming through, and imagination.
It was, what is going on here? So I could see all these amazing young black musicians that I couldn't see outside of the Jazz Cafe. It's like, why aren't they all over the media? Why is nobody looking at this? And we got talking, and it all started to become quite clear to me that there was something very, very wrong with the system of music education, music promotion, jazz promotion, who's owning all this stuff. So, we kind of set about, formalizing our vision, or forming a vision, and for how we wanted it to be. And, the story I always tell is a about Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing.
Great movie.
Yeah, it's a fantastic movie. And there's a scene in there where I think it's Mookie is in the pizza joint,
Yep.
in Harlem. And it's run by, an
Italian guy. Yeah.
Yeah. And looks around the walls, sees Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, all these white jazz people, and saying, how come we're in the middle of Harlem here and I can't see no pictures of my brothers on the wall?
Yeah.
And the pizza guy, the owner, says, you want to see pictures of your brothers on the wall, go get your own wall, build your own wall. And that was the thing that really sparked us. It was the catalyst for us. That's it. Lights were on, let's build our own wall.
That is like so powerful. This whole idea of build. It's a shame that it has to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, people should be able to progress, and God forbid you'd stayed at the bank.
No.
But this whole idea that you could go and build your own wall. It sounds like you were a powerful combination. Gary's artistic, but not just your creativity, but your attention to detail, admin. It feels like a very good partnership.
It was, and it is.
It still is. Yeah.
We balance each other out. I mean, we do have some pretty tough
conversations.
Yes. But generally speaking, we're really well matched. I think we provide balance.
So for people who listen to this and don't know much about Tomorrow's Warriors, can you tell us a bit about the organisation, what it does?
So it was created to provide a platform for those musicians, and particularly Black musicians, who weren't getting the opportunities to progress. That's kind of where it started. So we had a jam session at the Jazz Cafe. Gary would invite young people to just come and play with him. And that's in the tradition of jazz, where the elders are, teaching the youngers.
Yeah.
So it was a case of we couldn't see us as Black people and from our background represented in music that our ancestors have created. So, and at that point, jazz had become very intellectualized in the way it was being played. It was very Eurocentric, the way it was marketed. And I think a lot of Black people had disconnected from it for those reasons. They didn't see the Blackness in it anymore.
Yeah.
So, and also the dance had been taken out of it. Right? So we wanted to sort of, how do we change that? And that was then about, we need to change who's playing it, who's listening to it, who's teaching it, who's marketing it, who's promoting it, who's owning it.
Yeah.
All of these things. So it was quite a big...
Basically, you were saying we have to change. So building your own wall was changing the whole infrastructure of how this thing works.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
And it was, you'd have to be one step at a time. We couldn't do it all.
Yeah.
So the first step was, let's change who we can see, right? Because if you can't see it, you can't be it.
Yeah.
So changing the people who are playing the music and raising their profile.
Yeah.
We did that, got them out touring, and that's when we set up the record label, because we needed means to get the music out. And none of the majors were interested in promoting young Black artists at that time.
So when you approached the majors back then, what was the response you were getting? What was how was it being fed back to you?
Yeah, it's like, it's nice, but no.
Really?
Yeah. So...
no, it won't appeal to people, no?
Yeah, no, it won't, no, it won't appeal. They weren't taking us seriously.
Right.
And, I can look back now and think, well, maybe we were rookies, I didn't know what I was doing.
No?
I just...
Isn't that powerful, though?
Yeah.
Not knowing what you're doing.
I really like that, because it means I'm not tied to anything.
Correct.
So I can make stuff up. I can try things, and You know, if it works, great. If it doesn't, I'll try something else, try another way.
There's an argument that
You
says
know,
if you did know what you were doing, you wouldn't have done
I
what
wouldn't
you've
have
done.
exactly.
You know,
So I think that is actually very powerful. It's like, you know, sort of just stepping into the unknown and just doing what feels right.
yeah.
You know,
You know, the power of not knowing, right?
yeah,
Just
yeah.
means you just do what was right. So you got people playing, you did the
Yeah.
record label.
Yeah, we got them touring. So, say at one point, I was doing pretty much everything apart from playing the music. So, I was taking the photos, I was writing the press releases, I was booking the gigs, booking the transport, driving the bus. Yeah, all of it, which is good because now I know every part of my business.
Yes.
You know, so and then they all started winning awards and everything. So,
So tell us about these awards, because I remember when
Yeah.
I met you before, previously, you were telling me about the amount of nominations your artists have had, even for Mercury. So, like, if Mercury's the top award for music, pretty much is. Tell me, how many nominations is
I think it's 10.
10 nominations.
So 2 on our label,
Yeah.
and then overall 10 Warriors, and I think 8 of them in the last 10 years.
So 8. No, I mean, there will be major record labels who have not achieved that.
I know.
What is the not the catalyst? What's the secret of you could, you know, tell everyone, because they can go and what is the secret of that? Because that's an incredible record, and we must mention Ezra, who
of
won the
course.
award last year.
Who won it? Yeah,
Right.
amazing. Do you know? I think it's about not being prescriptive about the music. The whole thing about Tomorrow's Warriors, because as it is now, because you know we've spoken about, you know, it being a jam session, but it's progressed now to a whole learning program, you know, and it's a space, a safe space for young people to come into and learn jazz, but they can also bring with them their culture, their heritage, you know, bring themselves into the space. Whereas before, it was, you know, the way music is being taught is that, you know, this is how it is and this is how you do it. And there wasn't much space for particularly people of colour to bring who they are, you know, into that music. So I think what we have done more than anything is bring it back, you know, bring the blackness back into the music, bring the blues and the dance element, all of that, which is where, you know, jazz started.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
and it's letting people just be themselves.
Yeah.
You know?
And bring. So, you know, anyone who's not listened to Ezra Collective, you must go and listen to them. But the thing about it is, it's almost hard to define what that music is. It's jazz, but it's got Afrobeat. It's got Afrobeat. It's got so many influences.
Yeah.
It becomes its own
that's
thing.
very specific to London as well.
Yes,
you know, and that could only happen in London because of what London is. You know, that melting pot, that all these different cultures clashing and everything. It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah,
for the music, you know. But,
a collective thinking, diversity of thinking. I talk in our general business. You bring different influences in, you create something beautiful, right? And they're the embodiment. The Warriors generally, but Ezra Collective specifically, are the embodiment of that, you know, and the success they've had. So I'm all for it. Bringing all these creative ideas together, influences, melting pot, it can make amazing stuff, right? You know, so it's fantastic.
I think also with Tomorrow's Warriors, it's never been it's always been quite loose. Gary always says, you know, embrace the chaos. And people who come into our environment, who come from more formal settings, they come in and they do think this is just chaos, right? And it probably is.
Yeah.
But you embrace it, you let magic happen.
Yeah.
You know, because if everything's so controlled, magic cannot happen. You know.
I'm writing furiously because it's just so much incredible stuff, because that's totally right. And that goes with the diversity, right?
Absolutely.
When you bring things together that don't look like each other and smash together, it just feels chaotic, right, to start with. But in reality, it's different and new.
Yeah.
And, this whole idea of embracing chaos as a
Mm.
strategy for creating and innovating to something new is just, actually, I think music does it better than anything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you can play with it, right?
Yeah.
So you can play with it without it costing you any money.
Yeah.
Right? Let's just play with putting this jazz bit with this Afro bit with this reggae bit, and who knows, right?
Mm.
What comes out at the end of it. So,
Yeah.
and it's really interesting for me. I mean, listen to you talk about what you're like, not what you like, what you are like, but how that presented in this form environment. It must present beautifully in this environment.
Yeah.
Those traits,
Yeah.
chaotic energy, creativity.
I think it does. I think certainly in the artistic side of what we do, but also I think in the business as well, on the business side.
Yeah,
Again, I really like. I love being my own boss. I really do.
yeah,
Because it means I can do I can try everything, and there's nobody there going to say, no, you can't do that, right? And working in our company, not everyone can work in our company,
yeah,
because a lot of people well, I say a lot, not that many, but some people have come into our company, and they have a very fixed idea about how a company should run, how things should be done, and it's like, it doesn't have to be like that. We
Yeah.
can be really relaxed about some stuff. We can have some chaos,
yeah.
and we all like a bit of chaos. It is, it can be fun, and it helps us innovate. It helps us keep trying new things,
Yeah. How
So-
do you, I mean, because look, I got totally excited about the music part of it, but actually it's a business as well, right? How did you sort of learn to run your own business and do it? Because you can't mess with the tax man, right?
No,
You can't.
no.
So you can be creative in a lot of places, but there are lots of places in which you
where
cannot be
can't.
creative.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
So
No,
was that your admin background? Did
yeah,
that-
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. And that's what I'm really grateful for that, because when I did that diploma for personal assistance,
Yeah.
you did things like accountancy,
Yeah.
finance,
Okay.
accounts,
Okay.
economics, law,
Right.
contract law.
Okay.
So it was really broad, and gave me a good grounding. I actually started to love doing accounts,
Wow.
which is like,
This is
that's
great
crazy.
for a creative person.
It's crazy. Yeah, I know. It's really, but I just love it. But I'm that. I get really nerdy in the figures. I am that person who will stay up all night to find that 1p
Yeah.
that it's out. It's like, no, it has to be right.
It sort of proves you can be
Yeah.
left brain and right brain.
Yeah.
I think I'm both
Yeah.
left brain
Yeah.
and right brain. It's possible.
Yeah. But and I'm also very aware that as a Black-led organisation, we are under intense scrutiny,
Yes.
far more than non-Black. So I need everything to be up straight, absolutely right, spot on. So I'm really a stickler for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I'm also a stickler for quality. I don't want anything going out that doesn't look great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and so that's when the perfectionist bit kicks in, which, some of my staff hate me for it because they know I've always got my red pen. But I want things to be right. I think we want to have a really great organisation, and having everything up straight, I think, helps that.
So you said something interesting there about being a Black-led organisation. You have to be really, really everything. Dot the I's, cross the T's.
Absolutely.
Why?
Because I think there's a whole...
Why as a Black-led? Why have you made the point as a Black-led organisation?
Because when, we're a charity, so we're having to ask people for money.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're asking for a lot of money, from funders and donors. So they want to be sure that we are, we're running a proper company. We're doing things correctly. I just feel I'm very aware that when I send something in, and especially because we've been so successful, it's almost like, how can I describe this? It's almost incredulity sometimes, I think, on the part of some people that we could have done so well.
Achieved what you've achieved. Yeah.
And so when I say, well, this is what we've done, they're sort of, really?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
So that's why I want to be able to show, yep, look at that. There it is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Will they be looking? I mean, there's been for some very high profile issues with charities
Yeah,
run
yeah,
by ethnic diverse people. And it's almost like people look for they look
for something going wrong.
Yeah.
Something's wrong.
This can't be right. This is just all going so well. This can't be right.
Exactly.
You know?
So, and I look at what happened with Kids Company.
Kids Club. Yeah. That's what I was kind of alluding to.
It was a tragedy.
Yes.
So, and she was exonerated.
Yeah.
So it's, and then, now what's happened with Naomi Campbell, with her charity.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what's gone on there, but I'm not going to make any judgments. I think, but everyone's quick to jump on this.
Yeah.
Of course it was,
So this is interesting because it kind of takes us on to the last bit. And I always talk about institutional racism and whether it exists or not. I don't know, because it does. Because that's what you effectively are talking about, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about people of colour being looked at differently because of their colour and skin, even if the evidence suggests that everything they're doing is completely right, right?
Yeah. And, I think it always has been like that, and it will be for a very long time. But
really, do you think that it's not possible to change that, or if we can, how?
I think there are probably two ways to change it. One is to change the people.
Yeah, right. Change the people themselves or their attitudes.
Yeah, both actually.
Right?
Both
right.
actually. So people need to want to change, to change the status quo.
Yeah.
Right. So if they don't want to change, everything's just going to carry on.
Yeah.
And you're knocking at a closed door. So it's either you change their attitudes or you change the people. The other way, which is what we did, is, when you've been banging at that door long enough and it's not opening, it's like you need to find a way to get around, or, sidestep it.
Yeah.
So you create your own thing. You build the thing that you want it to be, whether that's an institution or, whatever it is. You build your own wall.
Yes.
That's what it is. And then you can decide what it looks like. The beauty, I think, of what Gary and I have built is that, it's really diverse. For us, it represents the high street. It's what you see on the high street, all that diversity.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what we want it to be. That's what it should be. This is the society we live in. All right? So if we can't see that reflected in all these other organisations, the arts organisations that make up our sector, then it's, something is wrong. And we have to now be, I think, the beacon, and we are becoming the beacon that others want to follow.
Yes.
And that's not just here. It's in Europe, in America, in the Far East. Everyone's sort of looking at Tomorrow's Warriors.
Yeah.
Now as, this is a great model. This is how you change things. This is how you change the system. So yeah, you can keep banging at a door, but if it's not going to open, or if it's going to take more than your lifetime, to change, then build your own wall.
Build your own wall. I mean, because when you think about the music industry, I was going to say there's huge. It's a bit like football. We can get huge diversity in front of the mic, but a real lack of diversity in the powerful positions behind the mic, right?
Yeah.
And what you're effectively saying is, and that's really going to be hard to change. So build your own organisations effectively.
Yeah. I mean, for us as an organisation, it's really hard to find people of colour at a level within an organisation, at management and upwards, because they haven't had those opportunities.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're in a tricky position because it's like, if I need a manager, I would love to have a person of colour because I want us to reflect, what the whole ethos of Tomorrow's Warriors is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? But if they're not there, what do we do? So right now we're trying to, we have a very diverse team.
Yeah.
And our plan, subject to funding and everything. But, we want to try and develop the team that we have. We have a fantastic team and they've got so much potential,
Yeah.
and I want to develop those younger people up, you know, keep them rising the whole time because, they're the future. They
Yeah.
really are.
Yeah.
We can't keep doing this forever.
No.
I'm getting old, Gary's getting old. And,
Yeah.
but we want to be able to pass this on. For me, there's a big legacy issue here. We've done all of this work and, at some point we're going to have to step back. And I want to be able to hand on this fantastic organisation to people with, who are younger, they're talented, they've got the energy because it takes an awful lot of energy
Yeah.
to keep it going,
Yeah.
and to develop it further.
Yeah.
Because, we have to keep that momentum going, I think, and, keep changing.
Well, and more than that, right? So building a pipeline of talent, which is what I hugely believe in, also represents them splintering off and doing other things. So
Yeah.
some are running Tomorrow's Warriors, some are running something else,
Yeah.
and because they've got the experience, and so slowly this group that you start splinters off and
Yeah.
is 10 groups,
Yes.
rather than just one,
Absolutely.
right? Because that is building the biggest wall,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Isn't it? Which is Tomorrow's Warrior is a wall, but isn't this incredible wall that you
Yeah.
can
And it's getting
just
wider
get
and
bigger and
wider
bigger
and
and bigger
taller
and
and
bigger,
taller.
and it's
Yeah.
outside the establishment.
Mm.
But maybe also what happens is some of those people then end up in the
In
establishment.
yeah. Well, somebody said to me that, we start being the establishment. It's like
Correct.
a new establishment.
Yes.
And we're seeing that with, as you say, some of the people that we're working with, they're creating their own businesses now.
Yeah.
They've got their own studios or their own labels, they're doing education things. It's great,
Yeah.
because the more we can see them out there represented in the sector, that tells me something's working.
Yeah. No. It's amazing. I mean, I always kind of finish with, because often when we do this section, we sort of say, oh, there's a lot of institutional racism. It's difficult. Lots of pushback and all the rest of it. But there's got to be a reason for hope. Be hopeful. Why are you hopeful that in generations' time, the thing that we've talked about won't exist, or if it exists, it will be much smaller scale?
Because we will have, Tomorrow's Warriors will have taken over the world.
I hope so. Well, it can be like I once met Michel Roux, and he said, I can't remember, 30% of the Michelin star chefs in the whole world came through my kitchen,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so why can't Tomorrow's Warriors be that?
It's absolutely that. And, an awful lot of the musicians who are really doing very, very well now at home and internationally have come through Tomorrow's Warriors.
Yeah.
And I think, they've bought into the whole ethos of Tomorrow's Warriors, which is each one teach one.
Right.
And they will carry that forward. And it's almost like spreading the gospel of Tomorrow's Warriors.
Yeah.
So they want to, they want similar things to us. They want a fairer, more equitable, more diverse industry for all of us to work in. They want the world to be better,
Yeah.
And with all of them going forward, because for us it's a bit like it's like a big tree. When we started, it was just a few people, one group at a time. When we went to the South Bank Centre, where we're based now, it meant we could reach more people. And so you see this sort of branching out of, all these different people coming from different places, all different colours, creeds, everything. And they're all taking forward that ethos.
Yeah.
And so I feel very confident, I think, that and hopeful that the world will change. It will catch up
Yeah.
eventually, because it's going to be better. And I always say, who doesn't want better?
No. Right.
We all want better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm confident that they're going to do it long after we've gone.
Yeah. Look, I mean, just in talking, first of all, hugely inspirational. I think it was hugely inspirational when I first met you, and it continues to be so. I think what you've done is incredible in music, in an
Thank you.
environment that's very structured in what can happen, but you've really sort of tapped into something incredible. It's like almost every industry needs its tomorrow's warriors. Like
Yeah,
it does.
yeah,
Music needs it, TV needs it, and the arts need it, banking needs it, insurance needs it. Everyone needs to be building
yeah,
their own walls.
yeah,
You know, the new walls that aren't the same as what the establishment is, rather than, I mean, you've inspired me in many ways that, like, you know, you don't have to completely change the establishment. You can create your own establishment, create a new establishment,
yeah,
right? That might be the way forward, not
yeah.
just trying to change something that's going to be incredibly
Yeah.
hard to change.
Exactly. You know, the existing establishment is really hard to change.
Yeah,
You know, there's lots of people in it, and you can't take them all on.
no,
You know, so you can spend your time trying to change all of that, but that is time that's just passing you by when you could actually be working on the thing that you really want it to look like.
yeah.
You know, so it's like get building.
Get building, and you'll get support in that as well
Yes, for
along
sure,
the way, which
for
is
sure.
great. Look, Janine, it's been amazing. It's been, I'm gonna keep looking at time. Wow, we've really been done that much time. I could do more. Maybe we will do more another time. Good luck
Thank you.
with tomorrow. Not that you need it, right? You don't need the luck. It's an incredible organisation. You know, I hope, and now we've got, you know, Ezra Collective are like a shining beacon of the organisation, which is amazing too.
And we've got loads.
And you've got loads coming through as well. So it's very exciting.
It
Great.
is.
So we'll keep me up to date with what's going on,
will.
and we'll keep our listeners up to date with it as well. So thank you very much for being on the
Thank
podcast.
you.
I've really
Thank you
enjoyed
for
speaking
having
to
me.
you. Cool. Fantastic. Honestly, what you guys are doing is pure inspiration for me.
Oh,
You know,
bless
as I
you.
build Elevate.
I always did. You know, I actually feel embarrassed. It's terrible. I told you when I first met you, I
Yeah.
have terrible imposter syndrome, but
It's
you know,
incredible, right?
it's great. I recognise it's great what we've built. I still feel very vulnerable, I suppose, when, you know, I go into these spaces like you know, these institutional spaces and all these dues that I get invited to, and I actually walk out of some of them because I just feel so like I shouldn't be there. It's really strange.
You should be there. There's not many people who, I mean, is your mum still alive?
No, neither of my parents are.
They would be so, I'm sure, you know, proud of what you've done, where you've come from, what you've achieved, how you've bucked the trend, right? When you were getting excluded from these schools, probably thinking she's not going to amount to much. But what they missed was she's going to amount to loads, because the core skills she's got work in the real life.
Yeah.
Resilience, not to be told no, to creative, try another way of doing things. It's just, that was an amazing hour of inspiration for people. So
Thanks.
no, seriously. Well, and if no one else finds it inspiring, I did. So I get that for free. Thank you. Look, brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.